perfectionism and wanting to be the best, that is amazing. That is awesome. That is how athletes become the best of the best. And when we're working with athletes with blocks, honestly, they are the best of the best. That's why it's so frustrating and confusing when they do block, because you would think, well, if they're so amazing, then why are they struggling? Welcome to the Mind Over Mental Block podcast. I'm your mental performance coach, Mandy Patterson. I know the weight of mental blocks because I battled them myself as a competitive athlete. From back handsprings I thought I'd never get to fulls I needed to stay on scholarship, I know how frustrating it is to feel stuck. And as a mom of 3 and former coach, I also know how heartbreaking it is to watch it happen. This podcast, it's for cheerleaders and gymnasts ready to stop overthinking, face their fears, and believe in themselves again. For parents who want a trusted voice to guide their child so they can simply cheer them on. And for coaches who strive to leave an impact that goes far beyond the mat. Whether you're listening together to or from practice or a big meet, or on your own in those moments when you're just not quite sure what to say or do, this podcast, it's for you. It's the pep talk you want, the tough love you need, and the encouragement you've been waiting for. So hit subscribe and let's go. Welcome to another episode. I'm your mental performance coach, Mandy Patterson. And today I thought it would be helpful to talk through 7 signs that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block. We do so much work in our Mind Over Mental Block coaching program, helping athletes overcome mental blocks, work through struggle, deal with challenges and skills that they have mastered. They have had skills for years, and then what feels like all of a sudden or in a moment, they go into the gym and they balk or they fall or they go to do the skill and it doesn't happen. And it's so frustrating. There's so much just hard things. There's heartbreak from parents' perspective. It's frustration from the athlete's perspective. And there's a lot that goes into working with athletes to overcome these challenges when they're fully blocking on a skill. So I thought it would be helpful today to give you some signs or to share with you a few trends that you can notice today to make sure that your athlete stays on track, that they are fully thriving in the gym. They're thinking in a helpful way. They're working and progressing towards their skills as they're doing those reps and they're doing those private lessons, that they have a mindset that is going to set them up for success so that when their body is ready, their mind is ready and they can just achieve their skills and just keep on rolling. These mental blocks, they do not set in overnight. I know it seems like it, but they actually build up. Mental blocks, they are an accumulation of pressure and fear. And a lot of it has to do with how the athlete is thinking and processing the situations that they're in the gym. It also has to do with things outside of the gym, but a lot of it is just the way that they're wired. And so I'm going to share 7 traits or 7 things to watch out for, 7 signs that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block. So the first sign that I want you to pay attention to is that the athlete is overly critical of their skills. So if your child or if you are an athlete and you go and you rewatch, because I know you've got those videos on your phone, you have videos of you doing your tumbling skills or those skills on bars or those skills on beam. When you go watch those videos, I want you to notice what is the first thing that they say or the first thing that you think about as an athlete. Is it, wow, I'm getting so close to getting that skill? Or is it, ugh, my legs were bent. Ugh, I didn't do it by myself. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that it was that low. That was ugly, right? I want you to pay attention to that because athletes, when they're working on skills, if the first thought that they have is negative or it's something that they did wrong or that they didn't do correctly, that is a sign that they are not focusing on the good things. They're focusing on what's not going well and that they are creating or they have this idea of how their tumbling is supposed to be. They have this standard. That's very different than having a goal of wanting to be better and working to improve skills. That's healthy. That's a functional approach to athletics is, okay, what am I doing well? What can I do better? how am I going to work on that thing? That's functional. But if your athlete is critical, if they criticize themselves, that is a sign that they could be potentially headed towards mindset challenges with their confidence. They're going to struggle with overthinking potentially, and it could potentially lead to a mental block. Again, I'm not sharing these things with you today to scare you or to make you nervous. It's so that you can pay attention and be aware of these traits so that you can take action and so that they can implement some awesome new focus on their mental game skills and training so that they can avoid those really hard set in challenges down the road. All right. So the second sign that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block is that they take corrections personally. When their coach gives them feedback, are they visibly defeated? Are they frustrated? Do they start to shut down anytime a coach or a parent or a teacher says something to them to try to encourage or correct them? How do they handle constructive criticism? So, what that says to me when they're taking a coach's feedback critically, what they're doing is they're prioritizing how the coach feels about what they're doing over how they feel about what they're doing. And they have this perfectionism going on. They wanted to do things perfectly, they wanted to do everything exactly right. And when a coach makes a comment about, hey, straighten your legs next time, hey, make sure you block off the floor, something well intentioned, well meaning, even if they weren't mean or harsh when they said it, your athlete gets upset. That is because they want it to be perfect. They struggle when things are not exactly right. That is something that could potentially lead to challenges down the road. Perfectionism and wanting to be the best, that is amazing. That is awesome. That is how athletes become the best of the best. And when we're working with athletes with blocks, honestly, they are the best of the best. That's why it's so frustrating and confusing when they do block, because you would think, well, if they're so amazing, then why are they struggling? Why do they have this challenge? It's because with perfectionism, there's so many good parts to it, but there's also a lot of challenges. So it's a balance. And that's in our coaching program. That's one of the things that we really work with our athletes on is how to balance those perfectionist tendencies. So that is a second sign to look out for if your athlete is taking corrections as criticism and they get visibly defeated and shut down and they don't do well with that. The next sign, the third sign, they're never quite good enough. So if you try to give them a compliment and the first thing they do is they throw it away, but I didn't do it by myself. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you went for it today. That's amazing. Yeah, but I didn't land it, right? Oh, but my legs were bent, but I didn't do it last week, or I'm probably not going to do it tomorrow, right? So if you have an athlete where you're trying to encourage them, you're trying to give them positive things to think about, you're trying to celebrate their growth and help them be positive. And I say that very carefully, but they try to be positive and they don't accept it. They push it away. That is a sign that they could be headed towards challenges down the road. So, that is something that I want you to think about. The reason why they do that, again, it goes back to that standard. This is what's acceptable for me today. If they don't feel like they're living up to their own expectations, they're going to assume you feel that way too. So, if you say something to them that's contrary to that, they're going to be like, oh, well, you're just trying to be nice. You don't really mean it. Right. So deep down, that's kind of the lens that they're processing it through. Again, it's that sign of expectation, perfectionism. So just another thing to be mindful of and pay attention to. The fourth sign that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block is that they seek approval first. So if you're a parent and you're watching your athlete tumble or you're watching them during a private lesson or a class or with their team, and you notice as soon as they land that tumbling skill, their eyes go straight to the coach, that is a sign that they could experience some challenges down the road. The reason I say that, they are seeking approval from others before they consider how they feel about their skill. So they are prioritizing others. That is a sign that their self esteem is not where it needs to be. The lower our self esteem is, and the more that we don't see all of the good things that we're doing, the more we're going to look to other people to validate that we're doing okay. So if your athlete lands and the first thing they do is they look at the coach or they run over to you and like, did you see that? Did you see that? What did you think? And it's more than just their kid and they're excited and they want to share that with you. You know the difference. If it's excitement and they just want to share it and they're happy and they land and they scream and jump up and down and they go hug the coach or they come and they want to make sure that you were looking at them, that's different. But this is the situation where the athlete, they barely have landed, or they just went for a skill, or maybe they didn't land and their eyes go straight to the coach because they want to know what the coach feels about it. They're prioritizing how everybody else is feeling and thinking what they're thinking about how your athlete is doing. So that is something I want you to start paying attention to. I see this a lot. So my son is a baseball player. He is 8. And for me, it's very interesting to be at games as a mental performance coach. I'm sure you can imagine that in the game of failure. And I do air quotes if you're not watching the video here, but the game of failure. So all the time I see, I mean, kids as young as like 6 years old, when my kids played T-ball, even, I would see these little kiddos and they were already being groomed and trained to swing the bat and go look at dad. And it's because dad and mom typically are yelling at them and giving them corrections and feedback over feedback over feedback. And the kid has learned that I need to make mom and dad proud. My priority is prioritizing how they feel about what I'm doing. They don't have an opportunity to sit in that moment and think, what am I going to do? How do I feel about what I'm doing right now? Is this comfortable for me? Am I set up for success in this moment? Or is dad going to be disappointed if I don't hit this ball? They're groomed at the earliest of ages. So I'm going to move on. We're in baseball season, so I got a lot going on, a lot of mental coaching for myself this time of year as well. But that's something I want you to be mindful of when you're in the gym and you're watching your athlete. Also, if you're an athlete listening to this, I want you to notice when you land a skill, or even when you don't, but when you're going for skills, what is your first instinct at the end? Is it to think about how you did? Is it to pay attention to the different components and what you're going to do next? Or is your initial reaction to talk to the coach or ask questions or look for feedback from others? The next sign, increased hesitation. So if you have an athlete who has been doing their back handspring for months, or they've been doing their tuck for a year, or maybe even they just got their flyaway on bar, and then all of a sudden they start to go for it and they're doing extra kips, or they're doing extra swings, or they're stutter stepping. Another thing for running, tumbling, if they start to go for the skill and then they stop and go back, it's like, oh, I thought someone was running. I thought someone was about to run out. Or maybe they're about to go for a back handspring and they're looking behind a million times before they go for it. That is a sign that their trust is disrupted. So, trust is your ability to let your body do what it knows how to do. Simple way everybody can relate, whether you know cheer or gymnastics or not. When you walk into a room, when you turn on the light switch, do you have to think about, I wonder if the lights are going to come on? I hope they do. We'll see. No, you just turn it on. You don't even think about it. You release control in that moment and your body just takes over. You just turn it on. You're on autopilot, right? Because you know, I flip the switch, the light comes on. That is trust in sports. I go for my back handspring, I do it, done. I go for my round off handspring tuck. It happens, no big deal, right? So their body knows what to do. Okay. When trust is disrupted, our bodies, instead of just going for things and staying very calm and centered and focused, we start to think about extra things that we didn't before. I hope nobody runs out in front of me. Well, what if I don't land it? Oh my goodness, they just fell. What if I fall? Oh no, I want to be on level 4 next year. So I have to have this skill. What if I don't? Right? There are other pieces that athletes become more aware of, and it causes that disruption in their trust. And so when they go for a skill, they're trying to do what their body knows how to do, but then their brain takes over and it's like, yeah, but wait. Yeah, but wait. They're not really nervous about someone running out in front of them. It's their brain being like, are you sure there's nothing bad that can happen right now? And then they're on their overdrive, they're overthinking in their brain. So that's a sign that I want you to pay attention to. If you see a shift in your athlete when they're going for a skill, if they start to have a little bit more hesitation or taking a little bit longer to go for skills, that is a sign that there could be some potential mental game challenges and mental game skills training that could really be beneficial for them. All right. The sixth sign that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block. This is something that I talk to my athletes about every single session. One of my goals or one of my purposes, I tell them as their mental performance coach, is to help them notice the words and the way they're thinking, their words, what they're thinking about, their beliefs, helping them pay attention to what they're saying and thinking so that they can realize when it's happening in the moment and they can do something different. So, as a parent, a coach, and even an athlete, with me sharing these with you, these words, I want you to start paying attention to these because you can call them out in a loving way. And that's going to disrupt those unhelpful patterns and help them choose something different. All right. So here are the words and phrases that I want you to start paying attention to. I should. I should have this by now. I shouldn't. I shouldn't be afraid to go for it. I shouldn't worry, but I do. I have to. I have to have this for tryouts. I have to throw my tug today. I have to connect my back handsprings or I'm not going to make the next level. I can't. I can't mess up. I can't make a mistake. I can't fall today. I must. I must go for it. I need to. That's another one that's very close. All of these, if you notice, what they have in common is they focus you on what's not happening, on what you want to avoid, the bad things that can happen. They're pressure filled and they're not going to support you in a way that's going to build your confidence, build your trust, build your self esteem, help you focus and get you ready to do those skills well. So, as a parent, as a coach, even as an athlete, pay attention to the words that are being used around the skill. That's why I have such a challenge and an issue when it comes to teams using phrases like hit zero. That is literally focusing their brain on what they don't want to happen. Going into a big event, they are focused on the bad things that could happen. It's not helpful for an athlete. All right. So I want you to start paying attention to that. The seventh sign. And this is typically the point where a lot of parents reach out to us and athletes and coaches reach out to us for support when the athlete is consistently leaving practice frustrated. They are defeated. It is every single day, it's a struggle. They get in the car and the tears start to flow, or they shut down. They don't want to talk about anything. You, as a parent, you ask them, how was practice? You're curious. You just want to know. You want to support them. And they break down. Why does that happen? It is so frustrating. There's a lot of different reasons why. For today, what I would just want you to know is that means something. And as a parent, you already know that. And I know it's heartbreaking to watch. And all you want to do is fix it for them. But in those moments, that is an opportunity to recognize that they have some mental game skills that are not being fully supported and developed in the gym the way that they need to be. So that is an awesome opportunity to step in and to try something new and to help them to shift their thinking and their thought patterns and the level of support they're getting with their mental game so that they feel like they're making progress. They're feeling confident. They're feeling good about what they're doing. Because the truth is that if they're leaving practice every single day frustrated and defeated, that means they are not taking away the good parts of that practice. So their confidence is going to suffer. And if their confidence is consistently suffering, then every day they're starting over from scratch. Every day they're going into practice with the lowest confidence because yesterday didn't count. That's how they're processing things when they're consistently frustrated. And so, as a mental coach, one of the most important things that we do is help our athletes to shift their thinking and to reconsider how they're assessing their performances in a way that's really helpful. So, again, we want them to see progress, we want them to see all of the good things they're doing. And most of the work is to help them unprogram all of the ways that they are adding pressure and making things a little bit harder. There's a whole reason why this happens. We're not going to get into that today, but as a coach, that's one of our things we do for our athletes is help them to figure out ways they're putting pressure on themselves to shift their thinking to things that are more helpful so their confidence stays high and they feel prepared to just take advantage of every single rep, every single practice. So those are the 7 signs that your athlete may be headed towards a mental block. Again, my goal is not to scare you today. It is to help you be on guard and aware so that you can step in as early as possible and avoid a full-blown mental block or avoid your athlete struggling with a year or more with skills that they've mastered before. I want them to thrive. I want them to be excited because this is their sport. This is their life and their love and their passion. And a lot of times these athletes, their identity is wrapped up in their sports performance. So if they are starting to struggle and they are starting to lose their confidence in their abilities on the mat, it's very likely if that happens and that keeps going on, that it's going to start bleeding over into other skills and other components of their sport and even into their everyday life. And I don't want that for your athlete. I don't want that for you today. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, the 7 signs your athlete may be headed towards a mental block. They're overly critical of their skills. They take corrections very personally. It's never quite good enough. They seek approval first. They hesitate more. There's some increased hesitation happening. They use pressure-based negative self-talk. They leave practice frustrated. So again, hopefully this was helpful today. We have a brand new Mental Block Hub page. So if you recognize some of these signs in your athlete, or if you're an athlete and you can raise your hand today and say, yep, I can relate. I do some of these things. Again, there's no pressure, but we want to be able to support you. So we have a brand new Mental Block Hub page. There are resources. It is fully dedicated to mental blocks for cheer and gymnastics. So there's resources, there's freebies, there's some trainings and different podcast episodes to help you learn a little bit more and to give you things to do differently in the gym. Also, there's several ways to work with us. We've got one-on-one intensives. If you're heading into tryouts and you want a little bit more support, we've got one-on-one intensive sessions we can book. We also have our full 3-month Mind Over Mental Block coaching program where you can get coached from an expert mental performance coach on my team every single week or every other week. And you get full-time support, text access to our community band app, the Block Breaker Circle. So check that out if that sounds interesting to you. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful today. You are amazing. I will see you in the next episode. Your time is precious, so thanks for spending some of it with me today. I'm so excited to hear what mindset shifts, tips, or encouragement stood out most. Be sure to leave a comment and let me know. If you love this episode, hit subscribe so you never miss another. If you're ready for more support, check out the show notes for resources and next steps, including my free quiz for parents, mental block journal for athletes, and how to book a free intro coaching session with my team. There's also a link to join my MVP list so you'll always be first to know about new content, resources, and special offers. I'd love to stay connected. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Mandy Patterson Coaching for more inspiration and encouragement throughout the week. Remember, you are amazing, infinitely capable, and stronger than you think. I believe in you, and I'll see you next time.